Are you afraid that you're ruining your career without even knowing it? Looking back on things, I can clearly see times where if I just knew what to look out for, I would have shaved years off my career progression and saved a bunch of grief. In this video, I'll tell you exactly about the 3 biggest mistakes I made in my career and exactly how to avoid them. They're so simple once you say them out loud. Welcome to A Life Engineered, where we take an engineering approach to your software engineering career. My name is Steve Huynh, aka Scuba Steve, Meta, Uncle Steve, or the coolest Steve you know. On this channel, I give you all the advice I wish I had when I was coming up, packaged into a short bit of snackable content that makes you smarter and more experienced. This is my free gift to you. In case you're new to this channel, I'm an L7 principal software engineer at Amazon, where I've spent the last 16 years of my career. But maybe I'd be a retired man of leisure if someone had given me this advice when I was just starting out. So let's jump right into it, starting with big mistake number 3, which is about getting your money right. I didn't start saving or investing for the first 5 or 6 years of my career. I started working in 2006, and by 2007, a friend of mine convinced me to open up an IRA, a type of tax-advantaged retirement account in the US. The contribution maximum back then was $4,000. It's around $6,000 now. And by 2008, this account was decimated because of the Great Recession and resulting stock market crash. It lost a couple grand, and I was spooked. I liquidated that account, taking a huge penalty, and didn't really save and invest for the next 5 or 6 years. I just contributed to get my employer match on my 401k, another type of tax-advantaged retirement account in the US, and I missed out on one of the best stock market rebounds in history. I ran some numbers and calculated I lost out on, if you calculate it out to today, like $300,000 and about $1 million if you project it out to my retirement age. In 2012, I started doing what I do now, which is to max out both types of retirement accounts. You might say to yourself, Steve, I'm young, I can't touch that money until I'm 55. First of all, I'm not saying you should max out your retirement accounts. You probably should, but my point is that you need to invest. Time in the market is so much better than timing the market. If you don't want to max out your retirement, put it into a taxable account, buy some index funds, hodl some cryptocurrency, buy some real estate, or invest it in yourself by growing a side hustle or learn a valuable skill. You have to pay yourself first. The second thing I'd say to you is that 55 is not that far away. I just turned 40 last month. I felt like my 30th birthday was yesterday, and I'll blink and my 50th birthday will be going on. People are living longer and longer lives. Save and invest your money and you'll have more options when you get old like me. Get that money working for you now while you sleep so you can sleep in. I just put 10 grand in my daughter's college fund when she was born last year. With the current market downturn, the latest quarterly statement has the balance at around $8,500. I don't care. I'm just gonna stack, and by the time she's ready to go to college, she can go to the nicest private 4-year liberal arts college and get a degree in medieval literature. Doesn't matter, not selling. Okay, let's move away from money and talk about mistake number 2, which is what I'm calling preferring output over impact. Everybody thinks they're important because if they weren't around, how would everything you currently do get done? Turns out that most of the time, if you weren't around, somebody else would have picked up the slack. For the first years of my career, I thought doing more things meant I was a high performer. I prided myself on picking up the most bugs, writing the most code, and resolving the most tickets. I thought that fixing a critical bug meant that my work was critical, but the reality is if I didn't fix that bug, somebody else would have. Now, I'm not saying don't fix bugs and resolve tickets. That would cause a different type of problem. You need to do your part. The issue was that I thought doing more of these tasks made me stand out. But the reality is, in the grand scheme of things, there's no difference between doing 45 stickies in a year versus doing 60 stickies in a year, especially if you're sacrificing a bunch of things to do so. The right way to think about it is in terms of differentiated impact. What you should cultivate is what Rahul Pandey, great channel by the way, calls having a nose for impact. Those that get promoted unreasonably fast and get the highest performance ratings have the ability to make an outsized impact relative to their level. Using my example, something that would be impactful is a refactor that prevents defects, or going above and beyond to find the root cause to a class of tickets so they stop cropping up and paging your team. So let's go to one extreme and suppose your job consisted only of upgrading the packaged versions of your team's software and making sure that there's no regressions, or migrating software from one dependency to another. That's it, just package upgrades and migrations. Well, that's a terrible spot to be in because you can't possibly be impactful. The only thing you can do to differentiate yourself is by doing things faster, and nobody would notice. You want to be in a spot where people can tell the difference between just getting something done and doing an amazing job. And then you want to do an amazing job. It's such a simple thing to say, but it took me years to understand that simple concept. Develop that nose for outsized impact. Well, you might be saying, Steve, I'm not in a spot where I have the ability to make an impact. I get my orders and I go from there. Well, that leads me to my last mistake. Number 1, not thinking clearly about staying or leaving teams. While I've only worked for Amazon for the past 16 years, I've had 18 different managers. So I've been around the company and I've worked on a ton of teams. This tip is spread across 2 concepts, waiting too long to leave and leaving a good thing. Leaving teams is really a difficult thing to do. It takes time to find a new team. So let's talk about the easy situations first. If your team's toxic, your deadlines are unrealistic, or you only take orders from your manager and there's no room to make an impact, you need to leave. Software engineers are in such high demand now that there's no reason to be on a team that's not treating you with respect. You can come and work for my team. I work on a team that's healthy and kicking butt. If it stops being that way, I'll move to another team super fast. If your team is awesome, don't go and chase a marginal improvement. You can't really tell if the team you might join is better or worse from the outside. What's harder is if the choice isn't clear-cut. Staying or leaving is a big decision with a lot of emotions involved. But the key thing is to think clearly about the situation. So here are some considerations. 1, the quality of your manager. If you have a terrible manager, it almost doesn't matter if everything else is great. A good manager can also save a bad situation and not only make things tolerable, but also give you room to thrive despite a terrible situation. Don't know how to tell if your manager is good or bad? Here's a video I made on the subject. Okay, number 2 is pay. If your pay is out of line with people doing the same job as you, then you probably should go. Check levels.fyi to get a sense of what others in your position and role are making. Don't worry too much about outliers on the top end because they can skew and distort what's normal. You should ask for more money or leave a team if you're an outlier on the bottom end. If you want to completely maximize compensation, go for it, but realize that you may be leaving a good thing and moving to something worse. And really, don't chase a marginal increase if you're in a great spot. So suppose you're a senior engineer with a total compensation of $350,000 and things are great. Don't upend everything to go and chase $360,000. Number 3, promises that things will change. If things are bad now, it's likely to continue, unless you see tangible evidence that people are taking steps to address things. Here's my tip to figure this out. You should not be swayed by words, only by deeds. People might say, don't worry about the attrition. We're hiring backfills. In this case, I would take a look to see if they're addressing some of the root causes of the attrition and whether they're taking the necessary steps to hire backfills. If people are leaving because operations are bad and your sprint is just filled with only new features, operations are likely to stay the same or get worse. If it's been a year since Becky, Michael, and Leslie left, but nobody has come to fill their place, and you just had coffee with Michael too, and he's thinking about leaving, don't stay on a sinking ship. It's only gonna get worse. Only when you witness action should you ever believe that things are gonna get better. Finally, number 4 is lack of growth. If you're the biggest fish in the pond, you need to leave, unless you're happy with where you are and you don't mind retiring with your current scope. If you're not growing and getting challenged, it's probably time to look for the next adventure. Either you should stay and get more scope where you are, or you need to find greener pastures. The best teams that I've been on are ones where you're surrounded by awesome people that you can learn from, and you complement the group because they can learn from you as well. I've definitely stayed on teams way too long. When I was an L6 looking to get promoted to L7, I once reported to an L5 manager because I loved the product I was working on so much. I have no problems with him. He's an awesome dude, but it set my career back quite a while because I wasn't thinking clearly about the situation. If you're in a good spot, don't go throwing it all away. Another thing I've learned over my career is that golden ages aren't often recognized in the moment. Only after some time do you realize, man, that was an awesome team I was on. I just couldn't see it. In conclusion, if you get your money right, prefer impact over raw output, and think clearly about whether you should stay on your team, you're gonna go far in your career and zoom past what I've done. I'm just giving you ideas though. You have to take them and apply them to your life. Thanks for watching. If you found this content useful, hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to ask a question, leave it in the comments below and I'll give you an answer in my office hours. If you like this video, you'll love my video on how to tell whether you have a good manager or not. I hope you're having a great day and go make Uncle Steve proud.